What up?
What's up?
Let me put my...
Let's see if we can successfully get
Hear
more
me?
people on here.
I believe in us.
I think so.
I'm eating the most bro meal of tilapia right now, Tim. Just really thought
That's
it
all
was
right.
fitting.
White fish gets a bad rap.
I am so good. It's just so easy to digest, you know? Goes down smooth. Enough salt on anything goes a long way. I see them in there. Meredith, I see that you joined, my love.
Unable to join. Why? But why? Let's try that again.
Hey.
Okay, that one worked.
Sonia, you look so relaxed and moved in.
It's because I'm
You're
not
like
at my
so
house.
like everything's unpacked, right?
I'm not at my house. We actually just that's why I look so calm. I was like, I gotta get out of our house. It's finally the sun has come out in Washington.
Send
This
it
is
back.
like literally the first time we've had sunshine in so
No.
long.
Send it back.
Yeah,
Send it back
right?
to me.
It worked. Yay! I'm like so excited about it working.
This never works.
I
Like
know.
to have a four-way.
All right.
So many
Sweet.
possible jokes, but I'm just gonna leave that there.
Yeah, we'll skip over that.
Get
Yeah.
out.
Okay, so all right, so we have everyone on. We'll let some people jump on. So for those of you joining, we are going to field your functional health questions. So anything in that realm is fair game for us, and I'm sure we'll go on tangents along the way as things come in. How's everyone's day going? Pretty
Ours
good?
are the chat people.
Oh, well, they can't
Everybody.
talk, so.
Everybody's. My day is good. Like I said, the sunshine is out, so we brought the Harley out. We're gonna do this and then go ride around for a little bit. So then we
Sweet.
have 4 more days of like getting all of our boxes. I did this thing where I rented frog boxes, which are like plastic crates, and they drop them off and pick them up, which is not cost effective. I thought it would be, but it's not, because then you have to hurry and get all your shit out and return them.
Yeah.
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 So no big deal. How about you?
Lesson noted. I never even heard of a frog box.
Yeah, well, unhear it because they're worthless.
Disregard.
Yeah, disregard. What about you guys?
Don't use it.
You what?
Ew. Same old, same old.
Zero going on? A whole lot of nothing?
No, I'm pretty all right. Well, you know I'm moving.
I know.
What?
We're moving.
Did you kind of get it like situated yet?
Yeah, well, the movers are July 11th, I think, but there's some other stuff going on, like just painted some stuff. The air ducts got cleaned. Like it's just some miscellaneous stuff right now.
Yeah.
Going on.
Hi,
So,
Laura. Hi, Maggie.
yeah, guys, drop us your functional health questions, anything nitty gritty. We like geeky stuff.
A couple people are setting their calendar or their alarm for this. So
Okay, well then I expect.
I think too, the best, where do you want them to drop it? Is in the little question marks, or do you want them to drop it in the
chat?
In the chat.
Either way. Yeah, either way is fine. I can see the chat pretty good on here, but if you want to drop it in the question box, it should be in the bottom right hand corner, at least on my phone. So it might be different for other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting there. Just a lot of small little things to finish.
Let's see. I have 2 questions that were asked, but I don't think the people that are asked them are actually on here yet. But we can just
Okay. Go for
slide into them and they can do them. So, what was that, Sarah?
Just get it going. Yeah.
Just get it going. So DHEA, when is it a pro to use and when is it a con to use?
Okay.
Which I feel like is a pretty good question.
I'm going to
Are
say
you guys going to be silent? You going to make me go first?
I mean, so I think that DHEA, it depends. I think that if someone is postmenopausal, DHEA is a better, a safer option to use, maybe without running like something like a Dutch test or some form of like deeper looking into hormones. If somebody's in their 60s, 70s, even like late 50s and postmenopausal years, and doesn't necessarily show signs of high stress, I think it's pretty safe to use and actually extremely beneficial. I am weary about using it in other cases without looking at labs, just because it can increase testosterone. It can also increase cortisol. We don't always get to choose how DHEA works inside of our body. Our genetics will kind of choose that for us. And if we have more inflammation, the risks of kind of those discrepancies are higher. So I am I don't know what the saying is. It's like slow to use something. It's a saying. It's real catchy, but I don't use it that often. What about you guys?
I am very much the same. It depends on the client. It depends on what's happening just overall with the HPA and their history. If there's history with any cancers, I'm typically a no-go for that. I'm going to refer out for sure. I'm not going to be the one to tinker. And then age is going to be in it as well. But for me, I really have to see labs. I would never do anything based off of just symptoms with anything.
Yeah. I said DHEA can raise cortisol, and that's not what I meant. Pregnenolone can metabolize.
Yeah, DHEA can actually lower it. That's why you have to be
DHEA
careful.
will lower it. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, you have to be really careful. Actually, Austin and I chatted about a client that, here again, like with someone who has, I'll just share, for example, a client, she has really low DHEA, but really low everything else. Like everything is just low. But in this case, you know, am I going to utilize it? I am, but with caution. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. I have another one here. This one might be a little out of the scope of some people, but it says high histamines and AAS linked, which mean anabolics. Treat with PPIs or different route. Well, so interesting enough, because I've heard this one before, is folks getting a histamine response from like super physiological doses of androgens, right? That's kind of what the question is. This is a male asking, so I'm assuming he's referring to that. But funny thing is, testosterone generally lowers histamine and in a vacuum, okay? So mechanistically, testosterone should probably lower histamine technically. Now, the issue is that that's dealing with normal physiological levels. So like if someone had low testosterone and they had mast cell issues, and then they increased their levels of hormones, technically, like they went on HRT, for example, technically that should kind of balance that out. But we're dealing with obviously like dosages that, so there's probably, to my knowledge, I don't know of a study that's like directly shows histamine in regards to high doses of anabolics. I don't know that study exists. Maybe it does. So the issue probably is we're seeing more of an indirect inflammatory and immune response because of these high hormones. That's really what we're seeing, more so than anything. And that could be for a few reasons. One, like, hepatic toxicity, like the liver getting stressed out depending on what you're taking. It could just be from just systemic stress of taking it. Also think like androgens lower cortisol or decrease cortisol, like will decrease cortisone into cortisol. So they're like going to push that cortisol back into cortisone, which might seem desirable on paper, but we need cortisol for inflammation response. So like if you're really, you're eating a whole bunch of food and you're taking these high dosages and you don't have, and your immune system's already getting hit and your gut's getting hit, you have this histamine, this like heightened histamine response, you don't have anything to really fight it off, right? So I've always been, my train of thought has always been like, this is an indirect effect. Like it's not directly related to taking it, right? So how would you combat that? Well, you'd probably want to start with the environmental factors first, like making sure that maybe like lowering histamine intake in the diet, lowering histamine liberating foods in the diet, taking something like quercetin or bromelain that helps break down histamine. Maybe even if you want to go really far, maybe even take a DAO enzyme like while you're on. I've done this with some males where they get this response like when foods, all these things are really high, so we support them like a histamine intolerance client while they are in a surplus, and then when they come out of the surplus it goes away. So that's kind of consensus. Not a PPI. That's not what I would do.
Yeah. Hard no.
Do not do that.
We're not the PPI club.
Do not go that
PPI
route.
is nothing. Do you ever see it more with like something like a 19-OR compound versus like maybe like, or are you seeing it more with different compounds versus like one specific route?
The more hepatotoxic they are, like if they're probably like methylated, the methylated ones are probably going to be a little bit worse. But outside of that, no. Toxicity is probably going to be more so dictated by total dose and total systemic stress of that dose. You know what I mean? How much like allostatic load, right? Like how much of everything is coming in. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the guy that asked the question, but someone just wrote standard bro meal, 2 cups of rice, 8 ounces of chicken, 4 ounces of peas, carrots, green beans, and some watered down OJ.
So this is actually, so I'm going to cover my ass because it only happened in the last 6 days. He said he had reactive hypoglycemia and our check-in isn't until tomorrow. So I'm off the hook. But can you guys scroll up and see that?
No, mine won't let me scroll. It's like I see them and then they're gone.
I'll read it out loud because I was able to scroll up to this one. It says reactive hypoglycemia twice in the last 6 days, 2 to 3 hours after biggest meal, post-workout meal. Blood BGs of 67 to 68, only checked because I felt shitty. Normally his fasted BGs are like high 80s. So we changed his training this week to a much higher volume, much more metabolic kind of phase. So I have not changed his food yet. So I'm wondering if that plus the meal here, I mean, we'll talk tomorrow, but I would add a little fat to this meal and see if that helps.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
But yeah, I would say, I mean, our stressors are different this week. The training is a lot different than what we were doing as well.
So it's just more glucose intensive training. And yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Feel free to check them in though. I always think too. Like
someone else asked, so here's an easy one that any of us can really answer. Someone asked, like, when is a Dutch test warranted? I think that's a great question. So I already did one. Meredith, what do you think? We'll let you go.
For me, for a Dutch, it's going to be up to the client. If a client wants to just geek out and they're just interested, maybe they have a family history of some sort of, estrogen issue, then awesome, we'll do it. That being said, if I have a client come in that we don't even have basic labs, I'd probably suggest saving a client a little bit of money and let's start with some basic lab work. Another go-to for me would be doing basic lab work in a Dutch adrenal. Here again, just to kind of save money. But again, it just depends on the symptoms of the client. If a client just wants to geek out and wants to just, be extra optimal then great. But then you also have to have that balance between, are we just testing to get perfect tests back? And maybe we don't even have symptoms because then we're just chasing optimal tests, and that can lead us down to many rabbit holes as well. So I don't know if that actually answers it, but for me, it's really down to the client. It's individual to what they're coming to me with and having issues with. There's different types of Dutch too. Like even just doing cycle mapping, do I recommend that for every client? Oh, hell no. But there is certain cases after a client's maybe been with me for quite a while, where you've been tracking and doing all the things, that I might say, hey, listen, instead of us looking at one period of time, we really need to look at things over the course, especially like if there's like amenorrhea in the mix, or even just irregular cycles. Then maybe doing a Dutch complete, that's not going to be beneficial, because we can't really pin down when it's going to be like your kind of ideal time. Yeah, I hate to keep saying it really does depend, but it depends on the client. And also, again, how consistent is the client? You know, are we talking about consistent with sleep, nutrition? All those things can sometimes clear up all of the symptoms people are having without needing to go down a Dutch path.
Yeah. I think I'll tell you, this is kind of the way that I look at it, is if they had come to me and they've already worked with other coaches on functional health, or they have like issues that they've already actively been trying to work through, that's probably a good candidate.
Yeah.
Right. That might, like, especially if it's things pertaining to adrenals, or maybe like hormones look semi-normal on a blood work, but you think the metabolism of them's off, whatever. The client that I'm probably less inclined to do it on is, you know, A, budget, but B, the client that there's just so much other shit that we can fix on the front end. Okay, if we do the Dutch, it's likely going to say there's some kind of adrenal issue. There's probably like some high 4-OH estrogen detoxification, maybe low methylation or whatever, right? But ultimately, all that really tells us is that it tells us what's there, but the course of action is kind of still the same. Because, you know, but if we have someone that all the foundational items are great and they legitimately are like the protocol client, like we're ready to hit them with like a hard supplement protocol, then that's a great client to get a Dutch test for, right?
On the flip, I'm gonna say on the flip, because we've talked about this on the pod, is sometimes even if a client doesn't, for example, if you're working with a client and they don't have all the foundations pieces, they're struggling with consistency, sometimes getting a more complete Dutch is like, here.
Yep.
We talk about this all the time, right?
Yeah, like
it's like you see all these red marks on here. They're bad. That's bad.
When it's like this, the dial is like this. I'm like, there's nowhere to go.
I think too, like putting together like a health timeline for yourself almost can kind of help you piece out like maybe what tests might be most optimal for you, like at any given period of time, like kind of like seeing, I guess, like what's been going on like the last month, but then also like 3 months, 6 months, years and years, and kind of like where you started noticing different shifts in biofeedback and whatnot before you kind of like decide on like, oh, I need this. You know, you might need, you know, just serum, something serum labs can show to start off.
Yeah. I think with any cases too that we have some sort of like like any situation that's like either PS or PCOS, like from a doctor, because doctors will be like, oh, it's just PCOS, and you're like, okay, but have we like done any actual testing here, or are we just saying that because she doesn't have a period or they're irregular? Any issues where somebody's having like hair loss, hirsutism, acne, stuff like that, but their labs are looking normal, I'm always looking to that as well. I think that Dutch is pretty helpful for everybody, but I've also, like Austin and I just talked about this the other day, like I just had a girl get a Dutch and I for sure thought we were going to see some stuff there, and like it was like, honestly, it was like she looked progesterone dominant, which was really unusual.
Congratulations.
And I know, like a miracle, and her adrenals were perfect, so I was like, all right, well, back to the drawing board. Yeah,
that's funny. So
someone asked areas of improvement, but you know,
right, it wasn't nearly as bad as we thought.
Yeah.
Somebody asked another follow-up on the DHEA. They said, hang on, let me scroll back up. It was, so what would you look for that would let you know that DHEA was not the way to go? So what would we?
Low cortisol.
For me, any history of cancers, that's just me personally. And I'm gonna say same with what Sonia just said. Too low cortisol. You know, here again, you have to just proceed with caution.
Yeah. Hyperandrogenism. also.
Yeah.
If anyone has.
You don't
Let's pour some more in there.
right. The thing about DHEA is like we know it's conversion hormone. So but you can't necessarily rely on it to like convert exactly how you want it to convert, right? So
She does what she wants.
right. So chances are so for example, if you have DHEA on this side of your adrenal axis and it's converting 75% into estrogen and 25% testosterone, if you take more of it, it's probably still going to convert heavily to one side that it's already converting to. So probably not a good option. It has like its application's kind of small. Its application window is pretty small. I think you and I, Meredith, I think we talked about a case today where we could use it, but it was like, small dosages and pretty selective.
Yeah.
I'm seeing these like women's multi, like in the sense of like a like product for her to like help with whatever. And it's like they'll throw like 10, 20 milligrams of DHEA in it. And it's like, that's not, when we see things like chastity berry, DHEA, like all this stuff just blended in a thing, it's like, that's not for everybody. Not everybody needs that. You can't just assume that, because if you're taking this product and you say that you are running some androgens and you are in prep, you're running a little bit of R, and then you start taking DHEA, it's like we're only adding fuel to the fire in any of these situations, and you don't always know which way you're going to go. If your adrenals are already low and we start lowering cortisol, you could start feeling more fatigue, feeling more issues throughout the day, so on and so forth. So I think you got to be careful. It's important to know what these products do and their pathways, because the wrong dose can actually make a client worse, even though the product itself, like DHEA is not a bad product. It's great. Like it's a great compound or a supplement. It's just where we use it is dependent on whether it's going to be beneficial or harmful.
And do you really need to use it long term? I think like that's something for any supplement. Like I know for myself, there is certain times that yes, someone can benefit for something over long term, but then what is that? For me, when we're talking about like DHEA and things that are helping to stimulate that HPA axis, if it is in fact suppressed or dysfunctional, well, I'm just trying to support the body to what it's supposed to do anyway. I'm like literally trying to nudge it in the right direction. We shouldn't be, we shouldn't in an ideal situation need to stay on things long term. That being said, caveat, there is times where certain people might need to be supported. For example, if my females that are in perimenopause and menopause and that diurnal pattern of cortisol, like we just can't get that morning oomph happening, and we see what is happening, then maybe just in the morning they need to be supported in some capacity. But my clients that are in like their 20s and whatnot, like the idea is to nudge it in the right direction and then pull things out and let things work. Let you work.
Yeah. And utilize it along like lifestyle stuff. Like what's the bare minimum we can give you dosage wise, and what's the most we can give you like lifestyle wise to kind of bring you up there, and then pull it out a little bit. It's the pull out method.
Pull out method.
Always pull out.
Always
that is the lesson of the day, kids.
Some
eventually.
things I don't pull out are like omegas. Eventually. I feel like is good. I feel like you should cycle everything. You should be cycling if you're taking probiotics, your multis, I think all of it. I think omegas are pretty like solid though.
Here's a good question. I like this one. Can you talk about your thought process working with postpartum women restoring hormone balance? Do you guys get many pregnancy cases?
Yeah.
I know I do lately. I've got quite a few.
Everyone's getting pregnant. It's that post-COVID stuff. Hell yeah, guys.
I think that it's important to get labs.
Postpartum, like I think the biggest thing is supporting the body what you've done for like 9 months. Like you legitimately just created a living being. And I'm going to use the T word. I'm sorry, it triggers people, but the trauma that your body has gone through of the birthing process, regardless of how that birthing process ended, cesarean or not, like that is a lot on you. And I know that it's very common for everyone really want to get that body back, but that can be a really opportunistic time for a lot of things to go very wrong for females, because it's a super stressful time postpartum. I mean, you have a new baby, the sleep schedule's all fucked up. I support my ladies. I make sure they have enough calories. Are we breastfeeding? Like, you know, again, supplementation, you have to be very careful, especially if you're breastfeeding. But then how did that pregnancy actually go about? And then again, I don't, you know, I think y'all are the same. I don't say, hey, let's run out and get labs like, you know, 4 to 6 weeks later. Like, we know what it's going to look like. Let's, you know, let's support you. Let's not start dieting.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the last 2 pregnancy cases that I've had, so one of the things I like to look at is, like, obviously healthy weight gain. They're monitoring with their doctor, making sure development's on point, et cetera. And I look at their body composition. Obviously, their midsection is going to grow, and over time, both of those cases have maintained nearly the same body composition in, like, their upper back and legs and glutes and everything throughout the entire pregnancy, right?
So
they gained
cool.
weight, obviously, but the takeaway there, like, there's really 2 main things that are going to dictate that postpartum period is where were they at when they started, right? Because all of us are getting these clients like, hey, I want to get pregnant, and they're a wreck, right?
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah.
So where are they at when they started? And then secondly, like, how did you go about the pregnancy, right? So where they were at when they started, meaning functioning normally. I mean, really, that's what it boils down to, is like, think of it as a contest prep, right? This is an extremely stressful period. So you want the client to be functioning normally. I'd probably also want the client to not, like, calorically, if we're talking about, you know, calorically, is I wanted them in a place where I could build them up throughout the pregnancy slowly to support growth. And that way, postpartum, they're already in a good spot. I'm not talking eating like an idiot, binging, like, none of this shit. And that way, postpartum, they're already in a good spot calorically. They have a good routine. They're going to lose some of that baby weight pretty easily. And also, like, I'm going to probably titrate training down a little bit as they get through the pregnancy, just for their ability, like their core bracing and stuff. They lose a little bit of ability as they go on. But we're going to basically, you know, lower probably just intensity of the training a little bit as it goes on, just from a nervous system standpoint. So they're doing more just light metabolic stuff by the end. And then that way, post-pregnancy, training's already pretty much, it can stay there. Calorically, they can pretty much stay there because they're already built up enough to support breastfeeding if they want to do it, right? They probably don't need labs right away because they're going to be funky. And then beyond that, probably just help your client figure out a sustainable schedule, really.
Yeah,
Like,
I was going to say.
Sleep.
Yeah.
No.
You might even need to reduce their training load more when they're done.
Yeah, like, don't, like, you don't have to go train the first week back, like, you know.
Well,
I think
not
that
sleeping.
it's
Like,
8
gotta,
weeks. Yeah.
That's
They say 8 weeks post-pregnancy is when to do it. I think some of the, like, challenges come when it's like 6 months postpartum and a person is still experiencing a lot of like highs and lows in their mood. And I think that's when it's like a really good, because postpartum can last different lengths depending on like who you are, right? But I think the easiest way to explain it to clients is very similar to like when you start HRT and you start progesterone. If you are in a house and everyone whispers in the house, and then someone comes in and it's really loud, it's going to seem even louder, right? So when we have really low hormones and then somebody like starts taking like 200 milligrams of progesterone, when you're used to living on like this low for that long and then you feel it, it can feel like a lot until the body levels out. So same thing, when you're used to these extremely high levels of progesterone and then all of a sudden your body tanks, these lows feel like even lower, and it feels like a depression. It feels like you don't quite feel like yourself. Like it's a very, very low feeling. And I think coming off the high that pregnancy can be, it can just make that low feel lower. And it's important to support with, like everyone was saying, like, I think one of the things that we see is people they're stressed, they stop sleeping, and they get into a fat loss phase the first 8 weeks, 10 weeks after they're cleared by their doctor. And it literally just puts their body in such a place where it's having a hard time recreating progesterone. Like, it's just like they're either having longer times between their periods, they might even have low estrogen, maybe they're just having high estrogen, low progesterone. So you'll see this like almost like a mimic menopause too start to happening at times, especially if a person, in my opinion, I've only had 5 clients like this, and obviously I've gone through this, but it seems like the people who had a harder pregnancy have a harder postpartum. Just like the people who have harder issues with their period have a harder menopausal, perimenopausal years. The condition we go into it and the health that we go into these pregnancies in. So if you're unhealthy before and you have GI issues and adrenal issues, you have a baby, when you come out, you can almost expect that's going to be a hardship. So if you're even thinking about being pregnant and working on fertility, I would say getting all of that right, your gut health, your adrenals, your hormones, your mental health, get yourself into a good routine, try to maintain it as much during pregnancy, and then you will set yourself up for a good road for success that first 6 months to a year out as well.
So, yeah, the last few that I've had have been super easy. Like, they're
and they
well,
were,
and why?
were they working with you before, like pregnant?
100%.
Yeah. So exactly.
Just,
so I'm sure you had them dialed in. They were having regular periods. They were,
yeah, and that's really what it boiled down to.
I think one thing I would just want to say is just remember, like, when when a female's getting pregnant, like, I've had females come to me pregnant wanting to start their gut health journey, which is commendable and awesome. And we can definitely work on that through lifestyle and dietary interventions. Number one, that is not the time to start working on, quote, opening up people's livers and things like that, because that will affect placenta and baby. And so just be really careful there. But I think what it was really important, like what y'all were saying is if you're looking to get pregnant and we're wanting a happy postpartum and happy pregnancy for you, but also for that life that you're creating, because remember that you are creating somebody else's, gut access, brain. And so that comes from your health and the health of the follicles. And that comes from like months down prior to getting pregnant. So, and this also too for the male, because he is a donor in this part, right? So how is your significant other's health and gut health and all these things?
I'm just going to breathe in all that H. pylori to the part.
Just share it.
Yeah.
My whole feed is frozen, so I can't see if there's any.
Yeah, I can't see.
Mine's updating, like, mine is there, but it's not updating that frequently. So let me look on. All right. Great info. Thank you, Wesley. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't.
Hey, friends. Thank you, David. Hello.
Hey, friends.
That is not, I don't know can I translate that? I don't know. No, I don't know what that says. Sorry. I do apologize. Still scrolling. Still a lot of everyone. At least joining.
Sonia, did you have another off-air question?
Sonia?
I think I did. I had 2. Let me think if I can think of the other one.
Scrolling. Yellow. Wait. Nope. I think we got all this. Okay. Oh, shit. Oh. Okay. I have a fun one.
Okay.
Everyone, give us one case that you've had lately that was unique. Different.
So I have a client who has serious GI issues, serious bouts of constipation, is passing white, like fuzz, like almost like mold on her stool. And we did a GI map, and she had perfect digestive capacity, no fat in her stool, no oxalate blood, so no blood in her stool. She had a small overgrowth of just 1 gram-negative strains, just an indication that there was gram-negative, gram-positive, so more bad guys, good guys. One will cause more toxins in the body, but she really was solid. No parasites, no candida, which, you know, was really shocking to me, I think, just considering how severe her issues were and like the inflammation, all the other stuff that had kind of gone with it. I think we might have like a serious biofilm issue. I think that could be probably some of it that's going on, but it blew me away to see somebody with such a severe issue come back with nothing on their GI map. So the good news is
that's the
we
one that
started a little, yeah, I started
one.
a little bit of a protocol with her a while ago, and the stuff that we've kind of like taken into place is already working. But it's always really interesting to me how sometimes somebody can feel fine and their labs are crazy, and then somebody can feel wrecked, and then it's lifestyle, it's their daily habits, their mindset around food and being the way they feel. Like there's a lot more to it. So
Huge.
Pretty interesting. Exciting to see how that one goes.
So she's feeling better?
She's feeling a little bit better. She's feeling a little bit better.
Is she bloated?
Yeah, severely. Looks just like SIBO. Lower belly bloat.
Has she done a breath test?
She did a breath test previously before working with me, and it was negative. But we had even like a serious like EBV, CMV on labs, extremely elevated in the 300s. And so I was like, normally you'll see that triggered with a SIBO case. So I'm not writing it off. I'm not saying that it's nothing. I think that it's just, I'm not sure. Really shocking to me, but what about you guys?
Trying to think about lab.
Go ahead.
I'm sure Austin has some good ones.
All my good ones.
Cycle back after. Oh,
your guys' good ones, because we all talk about them. So I got all the same ones. Meredith and I are conducting an experiment with motility and electrolytes, so I'll let you know how
to be continued on
that how that one goes. That should be. It's going to be a miracle if it works, but we're going to see.
Yeah, if it does, I'm going to show my pants.
Literally. Trying to think
that's the goal.
Trying to think if I've had anything unusual. The thing is, like, unusual, my perception of unusual is that's the problem here. Is that you're gonna have to hit me with something hard.
What's unusual is when nothing shows up. That's when it's unusual. It's like, dude, this is really weird, you know? Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. No, I would say though that I am enjoying the pregnancy cases and stuff that I had, like we were talking about. I think those are going really well, and they are something different. I mean, it's not something that we work with every day. Also, I'll think on it. I'll let someone else go. Think if I can get a better one here.
Yeah, I don't think that I have any, like, again,
I've
I don't
gotten
know.
some periods back lately. That's always like super rewarding, right?
Yeah,
I got
like
a fertility PCOS case where we're having like regular cycles, and it's funny because she's like, they're happening all the time, and then she counted them out, and she's like, oh, this is what a 28-day cycle looks like, but from like a 60-day cycle. It's like so cool.
Yeah,
so lovely.
I had one not crazy recently, but kind of like that, was on birth control for 20 years, like a long time, and like late 30s, and you know, kind of we spent like 6 months, you know, just working on foundational health and digestion and all that good stuff. Went off the pill and got her cycle a month later and has had 3 in a row. And
awesome.
so I just like it, like, just, you know, kind of goes to show that does not always work that way, but you know, I think taking your time with it and not, you know, reading something on it, being like, oh my God, I think I should go off birth control right now. Like, take your time with it. You'll have a much better transition.
Yeah.
I did have, I don't know if it was any of you I showed it to, but I did have a pretty cool, like toxicity case recently. Oh, I showed one of you. Did I show you, Sarah? Yeah. So I had, so essentially, long story short, the lady was, Dutch testing showed like really poor, basically like poor clearance of cortisol, really high methylation, had really sluggish estrogen detox, so like glutathione deficiency, you know, all these things. And nothing was quite making sense because I had thought I was supporting everything, but I come to find out she was a rep for cosmetic products, and she was doing all of the demos on herself, mostly.
Oh,
so long story short, and these weren't like natural cosmetic products, you know, some name brand, probably lots of parabens, lots of good shit, right? So she was getting caked every day, 5 days a week for like 8 hours, right? And
oh my God.
so it occurred, maybe not 8 hours, but you know, she's doing a few displays per day. So it occurred to me when she was realizing that she felt like less puffy, it was almost like a histamine response, like puffy redness, like skin, you know, just irritated. But by Monday, when she had the weekend off, it was subsiding. And so I'm thinking like, okay, it's just reduction of stress, whatever. But then I found out what she did, and I'm like, oh, okay. So we kind of compromised. She started using either clients or like a mannequin for demos within 2 weeks.
I'll paint them and all the shit.
Well, you know, I mean, painting somebody once a day is probably not a big deal, but she was demoing herself like every day.
For how many years?
Like wash it off, you know, and who knows what the makeup remover product that she was using had in it, right? So long story short, within 2 weeks, 95% asymptomatic. It was almost all gone.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh.
The environment, like I just had a call with someone.
That one was wild.
Yeah.
You know, some mold or like something like. So yeah, I think the environmental stuff I feel like is overlooked sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I have a client. I think the endotoxins are always like, if anyone knows me, you know, I'm like, I'm big on that, you know, like endotoxins are, anyways, I won't go into them too far. But I think that as women put on so many products on our body that we're not necessarily even aware of, as far as like our shampoos, our makeup, our skincare, all that stuff, I think it's one of those things that can easily be overlooked. On another note, but I just got really excited because I wanted to tell you guys this because you guys are like my tribe. I have a client who was an ex-competitor, and she was having super high fasted blood glucose, super high glucose throughout the day, even during low carb, like metabolic resistance, weight loss resistance, whatever we want to call it. So we swapped her. I pushed her carbs up to about 300, fats to about 65, and brought her protein down to 90. And she's been having all-time lows in her, not only her fasted blood glucose, but her like glucadian rhythm. So her glucose throughout the day, her postprandial meals throughout the day are sitting in like the 80s and 79s and 81s throughout the day from like 100, 140s. So that was super cool to see that somebody's body would like really respond to that, Mom. And then I have another person who was an ex-competitor, diabetic type 1, and same thing has happened where she's actually had to like adjust her insulin levels down throughout the day just to kind of figure out where the new balance is. Again, carbs are 320, you know, high.
Awesome.
So pretty cool to see that happen. I always think that is a win.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
We should do question box next time, and then people on all of our pages can.
Yeah, we can do that. I did get one more here about fibroids, I believe. Let me scroll. I don't know if you guys can see. Do fibroids equal iodine? Fibroids equal iodine deficiency. So you're going to defer to me.
I'm deferring.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of one single thing.
No.
I would say genetics can play a bigger part in that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So, yeah. So there's a couple trains of thought, and from what I understand, there's probably some indirect influence. So iodine as a component to like forming actual tissues. So that's one thing. Like I know that iodine deficiency, they've shown can have some negative impact on like formation of breast tissue. I've seen that. Also, tissues like what the proper term would be, fibrotic tissues, endo type tissue. They've seen a correlation between those, but
Yeah.
But also on the flip side, a lot of the literature shows that iodine is actually acting on estrogen, is helping balance estrogen. So we know that these reproductive type tissues they think the overgrowth of them is mainly estrogen driven, which we know is not necessarily 100% true. But we know, like, endometriosis, for example, your typical train of thought is estrogen drives endo tissue growth, right? Mm-hmm. And then they would treat you with like a estrogen receptor blocker, right? Yeah. Or they would treat you with an anti-estrogen or some kind of birth control for those, right? So from what I understand, like uterine fibroids, that it's more of the iodine and estrogen connection that's playing a role there. So I would say as long as you're taking in sufficient amounts of iodine, like any other human being, I don't think that you're going to notice any dramatic effect. I can't say that I've actually tried to load someone on super high amounts of iodine as a way to, well, I have, but not for this problem. Yeah. Not for this. So like I have for thyroid and a couple various issues. I mean, I think, Mary, I think you and I talked about it like way, way back, because we talked about like crazy high iodine loading dosages, like grams, right?
Yeah.
Grams.
Yeah. I've done it for breasts, not to create them, but yeah.
Bro, everyone's going to be hammering iodine to make their boobs bigger now.
New boob job, yeah.
You're welcome.
They're going to be injecting iodine into their boobs.
Sorry. Do not do that. Do not do that. And contraindicated if you have like an autoimmune issue like Hashimoto's, just saying.
Be careful with your iodine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely contraindicated, especially for those thyroid autoimmune things.
Yeah. Yeah, and really a lot of not all, but a lot of the people that are susceptible to like endotissue and fibroid growth have some autoimmune-ish type of tendencies and activity anyhow. Which flares up the growth of those tissues. So there you go. Let's see.
Autoimmunity is a motherfucker. I think that it's more common than I think people even know. I just think that it's part of me. It's like we're all one step away from an autoimmune disease if our lifestyle and
yeah, I agree with you.
They are
difficult. Like it's difficult too because once they're really, really progressed, it's getting rid of them entirely is not possible for everyone. I'll say that. Like I think once you get to a certain point, you're going to live with, you basically are just managing flare-ups, at a point. Unfortunately, a lot of the clients that we get by the time they get to us, they're already have been through the gamut. Yeah. And they have had these issues like, Hashimoto's being a common one. Well, if you've had Hashimoto's for 5 years, 10 years, et cetera, your thyroid gland's ate up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even if we can get the antibodies down, the functionality of the actual thyroid gland is who knows what at that point.
Yes.
Right? So,
I don't think it's coming down to like you're cured ever. And I think that's what a lot of folks have to realize is that it's like you said, Sonia, like we all have these tendencies. It's what we always say, the environment pulls the trigger. So, and as often as you keep pulling that trigger, it's going to keep potentially propagating and getting worse. So you really have to, it really is a lifestyle, not just a protocol.
And that goes back to those environmental toxins, and that goes back to endocrine disruptors, and kind of like the same thing. Like if you have a genetic disposition to like endometriosis or PCOS, you shouldn't take those things lightly. Like you should be leaning towards products that are more organic, fair trade, have less chemicals in them, because it's not always the dosage, it's the duration, right? A little bit of arsenic in one tiny little meal is going to kill you, but a little bit of arsenic every single day most certainly motherfucking will.
Well, yeah.
My 2 cents.
Please switch over to as you run out. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
On that note, everyone is gonna die. No, we're like, let's leave this. Yeah. Everyone's one step away from that immune trigger. So have a great day and follow us on Instagram.
No.
I did have another pretty cool little case recently. This isn't anything really new, I wouldn't say, but something I'm trying to do with more people that I wouldn't say I got away from, but I just gravitating back towards is like when we're talking about stress reduction, this is like super fucking broad topic of stress reduction and trying to get people to reduce stress, whatever that means, right? Most of these people that are, what is the word we use? Highly vigilant, right? And just super either that or very neurotic or very type A or whatever it might be. A commonality between almost all of these people is they have very few outside hobbies, if at all, or outlets, right? Like of any kind. So something I try to challenge a lot of these cases towards now is revisiting hobbies or things that they enjoyed previously. So like, why did you get away from these things in the first place? Like, well, maybe it was like just a basic activity, something you can do at home or something you need to do with friends or whatever it might be. It's like, well, why did you stop doing this? Right. So exploring these other outlets, have a lot of success with that with people. You'd be surprised like how powerful that is. Because I even know for me, like I still make sure that I do these other things no matter what. I don't post a lot of them on social media. It doesn't really matter. That's not what it's about. It's just, these are things that I enjoy. So I do them when I have time, because otherwise I know damn well I would be exactly like those people. Right.
Yeah.
I would literally sit here and just stew about shit and drive myself into the ground. Why? Because I've done it. You know?
Yeah.
So,
but finding that
cool.
joy.
I like that. I've had a lot of success with just less data tracking in general with a lot of those people.
Yeah. They don't. It's alarming. It's alarming. Like when you say finding joy, right? Like it's alarming if you'd ask them, they don't know. Like what does make you happy? Not like eating a free meal, like not shit like that. Like, is there something you can do that you get excited about or look forward to that's not related to fitness?
It's always so rewarding so I love doing that. I love giving them an action step where it's like, this week I want you to have fun that doesn't involve taking care of something around your house or taking care of somebody you love. So it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like taking your kids to a movie. I want you to do something fun, like by yourself or some form of self-care. And it's challenging, but when they reply back and it's like, hey, what did you do this week to do it? Their excitement and joy to tell me what they did and how good it felt and how awesome it was is like so rewarding as a coach, because it sparks that idea that they can start doing that again without the feeling of guilt. I think sometimes we feel guilty. I even as a coach sometimes feel guilty when I'm like, oh, I could always be doing more, right? You can always there's always an email, there's always a message, there's always something. So sometimes stepping away from that can make you feel guilty, even as a mom, right? I'm like, oh, I could be at home with my kid. But I think it's important to refill our own cup with things that we enjoy that bring us like a laughter, being around people that are social, because the gym becomes that for me. And such an easy, like, it's just I have to like watch that it's not the only thing that I do outside of work.
Same. Yeah.
That's funny because mine is so, I've been bodybuilding for so long that like the gym, I don't even think about it. Like that's the thing I think about the least now, used to not, it was never like that before, but now it's like, I know what I need to do, so I do it when I'm supposed to do it. And I rarely think about it otherwise. I rarely think about my body composition other than when I'm looking at it or taking photos. I rarely think about when I'm eating other than when I'm eating, you know, but that took a lot of screwing up and a lot of adrenal issues and a lot of digestive issues and hypogonadism and all this shit. So, yeah.
What's one thing that you do obsess over? Like, what's one thing each of you do obsess over?
Well, I probably fall into the same trap as you with like work and client stuff, just genuinely caring about people, and probably those people that you're helping them, but you're just not quite getting what you want. And you're racking your brain about it. Those are the ones that will eat my soul forever.
Yeah.
It'll never end.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Meredith?
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing, 100%. I think I can speak for all of us and say we genuinely enjoy what we do and genuinely have a hard passion for it. And I have been guilty. It's like just with Austin, like I've done all the things, experienced all the things, didn't get a fucking t-shirt either, just saying. And I don't want that for other people. And I find that now, you know, I made a video about that, like putting boundaries on myself and honoring those things. Cause I realized that like, I will just want to stay at this computer and work and research and find it, but I'm not helping anybody because I'm not actually doing what I'm telling them to do. So putting boundaries that all notifications, here's a quick tip for everyone, turn off all your fucking notifications on social media. If people DM me, like, I don't know. I only know if I get in, work, and then I get out. That's a huge one. And I think that having self boundaries for myself has helped me show up for other people better. Because I actually advocate for them and say, hey, listen, you need to do this for yourself. And like what you said, Sonia, like tasking people with, I want you to tell me, you know, one thing that you're going to plan. Like I've done that with a lot of clients, but like recently I'm thinking of a client, I said, I want you to plan a night with your husband. I need you to mark it on the calendar, get with him, find a night that it's just the two of you. No kids, get a hotel room in your same city. I don't care. Just, you need that time together, you know? And I think it's cool because it gets anyone looking forward to doing something else, you know, stepping out and finding that joy.
Yeah.
Right.
I like things too that are like just mentally stimulating to keep me entertained, but not where I have to like think and be logical, if that makes sense. So like vacuuming or like pressure washing or like,
oh,
you know,
love that
like,
stuff.
Like stress reliever thing.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, like I don't like cleaning my kitchen, like because I'm moving and I'm like, it's kind of entertaining, but I don't have to think like, where should I put this pot in 2 weeks? What will this pot look like? What will I have to think? You know what I mean? Like I don't have to forward think anything. I just put the fucking pot in the dishwasher and then we're good. Like it feels successful afterwards.
That's funny. I like that. Somebody asks, let's end on this. Somebody asks, I love hearing hobby ideas. So maybe let's all give a hobby or two of ours and maybe give some people, what do people that go to the gym do outside of the gym? So we could all give like one or two things.
For me.
Well, you get to go first then. I want to hear how lame it is.
Honestly, I like to just take a walk outside. I love to read. Fun fact, I actually really relax while listening to like something that is educational for me. That's super relaxing when I can focus my mind. But getting outside for me and getting sunshine, feeling grass, like that is huge for me. Like I definitely need to take walks and get outside. That is like for my mental health, a huge thing.
Yeah. I think walks are like a huge thing for me as well. I just so glad the sun is out because when the sun is not and it's pouring here, it's really hard to want to leave your house and go walk in the rain. But I think walks and then like spending time with people I care about is like something I really have to schedule in, because if I'm not careful, I I lose those connections, and so I have to be like, okay, every week I'm going to connect with one friend, even if it's just like a phone call or, or coming over to their house, or like we go ride the bikes together, go out to dinner. I think it's just really important to maintain that, because it's easy to get caught up in your everyday life, and then you're not connecting with people that make you who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the walks and talks with friends, like on the phone. One thing I grew up horseback riding, so I do it enough. And I was just talking to someone about this today, like how just therapeutic just going to the barn is, even if I'm not riding. And, you know, my mom still rides, so, you know, I can go up there anytime with her, but it's a 40-minute drive. So it's kind of like, you know, people, you know, complain about not having time for the gym. But again, if it's a priority, you know, you can make it one. So that's one that, woo!
Uh-oh, we lost her.
We're good. We're good.
She got really excited.
That's what I got to get into again. We'll leave it at that before I whack my phone again.
That was awesome.
Well, I'm not nearly as lame as you guys. I actually have like real hobbies.
Yeah, like your car.
These are real hobbies.
What are your hobbies?
Yeah, I do like cars.
Turn your phone right now. Go.
Actually, so I do other things. During the winter, I volunteer with the local wrestling teams, and go in and actually help and go like full, you know, through full practices and do all that. During summer, I started racing motocross when I was about 8, so I still ride now in the summer. Yeah. That's what I did like my whole entire childhood, up to like 21, really, up to like early 20s.
Oh, wow.
Even race like professionally and everything. So, yeah. So like I still ride some, not as much as I'd like to because I don't have a lot of time, but I still go. Cars. I'm really my guilty pleasure is I'm a huge fan of arm wrestling. I don't do it.
Like watching
But
it?
I follow like internationally, like I follow like the whole scene. Yeah.
Like a
I love
fetish?
it.
This is like a fetish.
No. It's not fetish. It's actually like a very technical, like it's like a very technical sport. It's pretty interesting. Check it out. Try it.
Yeah, true. I will. You know what? I will try
Get
it.
into it. Start trying it. I'm afraid to try it. I'm afraid to do it though, because I'm afraid to hurt myself for one. And, you know, last thing I want to do is like, you know, tear a tendon in my hand or my wrist and not be able to.
Story. Yeah.
And that's what would happen. That's most likely what would happen. But I do follow it because actually there's a guy in Pennsylvania that is an IFBB judge, and he's a show promoter, and met him. So his cousin's actually like 1 or 2 in North America. And I ran into him. Yeah. And so I ran into him somewhere, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And so I've literally followed it ever since. So, yeah.
That is a crazy fun fact.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's about as niche as bodybuilding, you know?
Yeah.
It really, like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, there's federations, but they're kind of, you know, if they stream it, it's on like some obscure fucking streaming platform that you pay $9.99 for, and you watch the event. You know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah. Yes. Chris Tuttle was a pro motocross rider. Someone said that. You know who Chris Tuttle is?
Yeah.
Coach
Yeah.
Chris Tuttle? Yeah. I know he was really good. He raced professionally too. That's pretty cool. But no, I do not have a arm wrestling fetish. Sorry. I know it's a disappointment, but no. Sorry.
Oh, just see Austin with like a backpack with his cats in it, riding motocross.
Yeah, I definitely ride with my cats. They would love that. They like the noise.
That'd be so cool. Little backpack.
They'd be literally scarred for life.
I'm not nearly as lame as people think.
Yeah, you're cooler than us.
I think that
I am more lame than most people think.
I think people think we are what social media is, like what our social media is. And I feel like it's weird because like I just don't bother posting like as much real life stuff on there anymore. I felt like I used to post it all, and now I'm just like, I just don't want to post it all, you know?
Well, because when you're doing those things, like you're not thinking about your phone, like, or like you're so in what you're doing, and that's the best part of it.
Even like taking pictures with people that you're around or doing stuff, I'm always so fucking bad at it because I just forget.
Yeah.
Because I just don't really care at that and in that moment. You know what I mean?
I think because we're so we're plugged in for work, and I think that for like going back to like those things that we do, like for me, like the wins are when I'm not on my phone. Like I legitimately have a time where if I'm with like my husband, I want to be present like with him. Like you know, it's
Yeah.
Cool. Here. Cool.
Okie dokie. All right, everyone. I'll repost this too, so it should be visible.
Dope.
Yay. This was fun.
There's an arm wrestling event this weekend, so I'm gonna go. I got to see what's going on. So
I feel that the next time you do the PEC, that you all should do arm wrestling. I'm just saying, like this could be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know some of the techniques, so like, I don't want to.
An IMH throwdown.
I have to study.
Jam.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that at the IMH. Whatever we're gonna call it. I don't know what the
Summer Showdown, or I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, something like that. We'll see. Okie dokie. All right, everyone, have a good night.
Guys.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
See ya.